Hi, how are you doing? Tabia Muluna Kura Mahina. My name is Ghazali Ohorella. I'm from Maluku. I'm affiliated to the Alifuru people of the Maluku Islands, and I'm here with the International Indigenous Peoples Forum on Climate Change. And I'm one of the specialists, I wouldn't call it experts though, specialists that is primarily focused on oceans as well as Article 6. And there's a lot of interest in Article 6 right now. Just to back you up a little bit, the Paris Agreement that everybody knows about was adopted, and it describes how what states will have to do to fight climate change. The rule book is meant to explain to states how they should do it. So up from COP21 in 2015 up until COP24 in 2018, states were negotiating the content of the rulebook. They came up with different articles, and including Article 6. Article 6 is mostly on the market-based solutions when it comes to carbon trading. That particular article was supposed to be finalized in 2018 at COP24. But there was so much disagreement between states that they had to postpone it until COP25, which is happening right now in Madrid. The disagreement that was on Article 6 was on two major issues. One was, of course, on the guidelines, and two was on a timeline. Some NDCs had a timeline of up until it would extend to 2025. And another set of NDCs were extended until 2030. So there's a disagreement about what should be the timeline. There's an agreement that there should be one timeline, but not which one. But that's not what bothers me of Article 6. What bothers me of Article 6 are these two things. The first thing is that we're now at the 11th hour. Once Article 6 is finalized, the rule book is finalized, and it's locked. For the next 30 to 40 years, at least, the rule book will not be changed. So if we want to make any changes, anything that would protect the rights of indigenous peoples, we need to do it right now. The second thing is these so-called solutions that they created to fight climate change. The intent of the Article 6 is for international cooperation when it comes to fighting climate change, to curb the emissions. So what they call is carbon credits. So for example, if one developed country needs carbon credits, it can ask a developing country for its credits in exchange for a project. That project, under the quote-unquote auspices of it's for climate change, will be held on the lands of indigenous peoples without their free, power, informed consent, without their rights. So that's why it's very important to have the rights of indigenous peoples in there. Another worst case scenario could be that a developing country wants to transition to alternative energy. So for example, they want to build a hydro dam. They ask a developed country to build it, to finance it, in exchange for carbon credits. They build it, and this dam will flood lands behind the dam, which happens to be the lands of indigenous peoples. So that's why it's very important to have safeguards in there so that the rights of indigenous peoples are protected. So when I talk about safeguards, I'm talking about human rights, about the rights of indigenous peoples. Because the rights of indigenous peoples includes the right to participate in decision-making processes that affect us. So basically, nothing about us without us. It also includes the right to free, prior, and informed consent. So basically, nothing about us without our consent. The very important thing that we need to remember is that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, or you're serving the menu. So that's why it's very important for indigenous peoples and our rights to be in the Paris rule book, and in particularly Article 6. So that's where we are right now at COP25. what we need right now is like, so there's Article 6, there's a draft, which they're going to decide upon, and it has references to human rights, which is currently bracketed, which means that there's some people want it in there, or some states want it in there, and some states do not want it in there. So when it's bracketed, it is prone to be removed. So that's why we need to lobby states to remove the brackets. But it's only relevant to certain elements of that article. What we need are overarching principles so that all our rights, so not just indigenous peoples, but rights of human rights are protected when they go into these market solutions to fight climate change. And that's why we are also advocating for an overarching principle that would include the rights of indigenous peoples and as well as human rights. So that's the gist very quickly on Article 6 and why we need to have indigenous peoples' rights and human rights in there.